our way. Thank you, Maurice. And tonight we're going to deal with the emotional challenges of COVID-19. May 2020, we did the same thing. We kind of just talked about 2 months in, how people were feeling, the stresses, but now we know we are 9 months in. And so everything has escalated at this point. I'm going to introduce our panel, and this is a conversation. We want you all to join in, put questions in the chat box for us, and we will give them to the panelists to address. We have 2 youth panelists on with us, and we have 2 mental health experts on the line today. But again, this is conversation. Feel like you're in your living room, sitting around with friends, and we just want to address the problems that we're all having. There's no one on this line that's not really having some real challenges. I'm going to introduce her in a minute, but Dr. Monica Green was on our May 2021, and I remember something she said is that we are forever changed. We'll never be the same because of this pandemic. So, and we're all in this together. Our councilman always reminds us. So let's get started. Got to put my glasses on so I can read these bios. We are thrilled that we are having District 8's Jonathan C. Harris. Jonathan is raised in Fort Washington, Maryland. He is no stranger to leadership, hard work, or success. At the age of 10 years old, he earned the right to be a guest weatherman for a day on Fox 5 DC News. He has already received over 100 honors and awards, including 3-time published author, 40 Under 40 for Prince George's County, Maryland, TEDx Talk speaker, School Valedictorian, and the Kiwanis Club Citizenship Award. Jonathan is also the founder and director of TEDx Fort Washington, where he hopes to showcase the best and the brightest of our community. Let's give Jonathan Harris a round of applause. Give him back. And then we have Nina Jackson, another District 8 star. Nina Jackson is currently a senior at Oxon Hill High School, enrolled in the Science and Technology program with a concentration in biological sciences. She is a longtime youth advocate and community leader, serving in a variety of roles on the school, local, and state level, centered around political engagement and educational equity. Currently, Nina serves as the 41st student member of the Prince George's County Board of Education, where she diligently and proudly represents 136,000 plus students. Additionally, Nina is an active member of her student government, the Prince George's Regional Association of Student Governments, and the Maryland Association of Student Councils. Nina is also a proud member of the District 8 Youth Advisory Council for Councilwoman Monique Anderson Walker. Woo! She's one of our own. Outside of school, do you believe she has things that she can do even outside of this? I mean, what is this woman doing? She works with community leaders, public officials, and community organizations to advocate for progressive reforms on the county, state, and federal levels. Let's give Nina a round of applause. And her principal, Ms. Marcy Holland, is on the line too.
Yay, Nina. Hi, Marcy. Hi,
good to see you, Marcy. Next, we have a biography of Tyrese McAllister, LPC, CSOTP. On the surface, Tyrese R. McAllister helps people overcome tough life challenges. But what she really does is disrupt negative, maladaptive patterns of behaviors and thoughts that interrupt lives. And she teaches individuals to live radically resilient lifestyles despite life challenges. Woo! She has over 25 years experience in the fields of emergency mental health, helping individuals experiencing both crises and traumatic events. As the co-founder and chief clinical officer of Clinical and Forensic Associates, Mrs. McAllister is committed to helping people overcome tragedy and crises and transition to become radically resilient to live their best life and fulfill their life purpose. Can we give a round of applause to Tyrese McAllister?
All right.
Where is she? Am I seeing her? I'm not seeing her on my screen. Okay, up top, there she is. Thank you so much. And last but not least, we have Dr. Monica Green, who is a clinical psychologist. She's been a psychologist for over 20 years. She has a private practice and she is the chief of clinical programs for an outpatient mental health clinic in Upper Marlboro, Maryland. She was featured in the OWN episodes called Unfaithful, didn't know that, which ran for 7 seasons. And she served as a consultant and was featured in a few episodes. She counsels all populations such as couples, premarital counseling, marital counseling, individuals, adolescents, and adults. She can be reached via email, and I'm going to put the information in chat before we close out so that you can reach Mrs. McAllister and Dr. Monica Green. So thank you so much. Let's give Dr. Monica Green a round of applause too. We have some heavy hitters in here. I'm learning new stuff about you all too. I need your autograph, Dr. Green.
Need my what? Oh, my.
Your autograph. Yeah. So we're going to start out with Jonathan going to lead us, and they're going to talk a little bit, and then we want to engage you all. We want some questions in the chat. But Jonathan, if you could take the program.
Sure. So, of course. So first and foremost, thank you again for everything that you've done behind the scenes to bring this all together. We appreciate you so much, Mrs. Gina.
Thank you.
Of course, of course. So again, good evening, everyone. My name is Jonathan Harris. I have the honor and privilege of being from Fort Washington, Maryland. And I have the honor of kicking us off tonight. So earlier today, we kind of talked about how we wanted this to go. And the biggest thing that we wanted everyone to take away from this is the understanding that regardless of what it is that you may be going through, we can all work together to support each other as well as walk away with some individual resources. So with that being said, I kind of wanted to just recap some of the different things that people may be experiencing, at least from my age bracket, as well as what I do. Outside of being an author, that was mentioned in my bio, I've been working in higher education now for the last 8 years. I have the honor of working at the first degree granting HBCU, Lincoln University. So not only do I have my own personal experiences as a young adult, but the experiences that I've seen my students go through. So some of the biggest things that I've noticed with COVID, at least from some of my friends, is the change in the job market. As you know, some people lost their jobs altogether. Some people had a reduction in their hours. And then for everyone else who kind of kept their jobs, we saw a major change in what were the responsibilities that came with our job. So I know for me personally, one of the things that I had to do as a result of COVID, anytime we had a student who was in quarantine, I was one of the people who had to make sure that they were fed during their isolation period. So every day I went through the anxiety of, what if I catch COVID, you know, trying to deliver food, for example, to students. Now, even though that example is higher ed, many jobs had similar risks based on the fact that they're coming in contact with people. So I know that caused a lot of nervousness. As a result of that, I actually have not seen my family in 4 months. Coming home for Thanksgiving break was the first time I had seen them since July, because I was just so fearful of, you know, the nature of what I do, being around so many people, and then coming home to older parents and potentially putting them at risk if I were to catch it. Kind of made like this huge divide. So I know there were several phases throughout the semester where I felt very kind of homesick. And I know those who lived in other states, wherever they grew up, might have felt the same way. Some of the different things that we saw with that as well is a lot of people had plans for this year that got changed. Some people may have had trips that they go on every single year, trips that they were looking forward to that maybe got canceled. Some people were supposed to get married this year. Even myself, I was turning, I've turned 30, but since then, a lot of my friends who are also turning 30 or a significant number of years had to change their plans altogether. So as we talk about the different things that may cause some form of anxiety or depression, the reason we're sharing this is because all of us on the line may either have experienced this ourselves, or we may know someone who has had some of these things happen in their lives. So as the family, the friends, the mentors, or whoever you might be to some person, we want you to be aware of some of the signs of things that may lead to anxiety. Switching gears a little bit, even just looking at what's been going on in the news, outside of everything going on with COVID, we've also been dealing with even more cases of police brutality that we watched roll out with George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and many other people. Unfortunately, it's too many people to name, all on top of it being an election year. So I feel like this year has had a kind of like blow after blow after blow. We're not even getting into the celebrities that we have unfortunately lost, from Chadwick Boseman to Kobe Bryant, even recently Alex Trebek, and so many. So these are some things that, you know, regardless of how old you might be or where you are in your life, could be very turbulent things for you. Now, in terms of some of our college students, if you have children or grandchildren or nieces or nephews, some of the things to really look out for that my students shared with me are the fact that virtual learning, the schoolwork itself hasn't really tripped them up. It's been that they have been struggling with anxiety, and they feel like many of the professors aren't being as open to how they might be doing as people, as long as our students are still doing the work. So for those of you who might work in education, being mindful of just checking in with the students to make sure, hey, how are you, before we jump into lessons or things of that nature. And just outside of that too, their ability to make friends. As you know, young people love socializing. So being in their home states and cities makes it a lot harder for them to be able to either keep up with the current friends they have or even go on to make new friends. So with that being said, I actually want to turn it over.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Jonathan. Now we're going to go, that's a really great information in terms of, I thought he was in his 20s. He's 30 years old. So, but he still has he stays in contact with a lot of his college younger peers. So definitely insightful on what their needs are. Now we're going to turn it over to Nina Jackson to talk about like high school and the younger generation, what they're going through. So parents, listen in.
Thank you, Ms. Dina. And thank you to all of you guys for just joining us for this really important conversation. And definitely thank you to Councilwoman Anderson Walker for spearheading this and extending me an invitation. When I was invited to be a part of this conversation, one of the things I struggled with was deciding what I could possibly say that would adequately and truthfully and faithfully represent what young people are going through. As many of you all may know, young people by no stretch of the measure are a monolith. We are not the same, and we have a variety of broad interests and alignments and identities and so on and so forth. And so one of the things that I think best represents my mission and my purpose for being here is that during this situation, during COVID-19, during this quarantine, these 9 months, we've all mourned something. Again, we've all mourned something. We've all lost something. We've all been divorced or departed from something we once held very close and true to who we are. For some of us, this is rather figurative, right? Some of y'all, you're like, fine, I got my job, I got my house, I'm good, right? The only thing I'm missing is that I can't go to the mall. For others of us, it's quite literal. My generation is one of the most technologically dependent and one of the most technologically integrated generations. I think personally, I think you all would agree with me. But one of the things we found when COVID-19 hit is that by no stretch of the measure does technology serve as an adequate replacement for true, genuine, and authentic physical interaction. So a lot of us are mourning not being able to be with our peers, not being able to connect with our family members, like, you know, Mr. Harris, or Jonathan rather, mentioned in his personal experience. What we're missing is the physical security and safety that we know school or the schoolhouse provides. What we're missing is the comfort that we took in knowing that we had a semblance of normalcy in our day-to-day lives, that we had a schedule, that we, you know, walked to the same beat for the most part every day. And for the most part, there wasn't anything too unexpected to expect. I think in addition to some of the things I just mentioned, COVID-19 has also exacerbated a lot of the social ailments that plagued us prior to COVID. The fact of the matter is that technological inequity within the school system is nothing new. There's very few schools within the school system prior to COVID-19 that were one-to-one, meaning that schools were able to provide every student in their school a device to take home with them and to use. The fact of the matter is that prior to COVID-19, we still had discrepancies in instructional support, for example, for student populations and student demographics like special education or immigrant families or families and students who are economically disadvantaged. But because of COVID-19 and because of everything that came with it, it's much worse than what it was before. In this case, right? Housing and food insecurity is nothing new, especially in Prince George's County, and neither is financial or economic instability. But the fact of the matter is that people are losing jobs. Like Jonathan mentioned, it's harder for people to find jobs. It's harder to recuperate on the financial losses that you took. And because of, you know, on top of that, you have people, you know, saying that we're going to experience an economic recession, one possibly worse than the Great Depression in the 1930s and one possibly worse than we had in 2008. You have students who are in unfortunate home circumstances, and whereas in the past they saw school, the movie theater, the recreation center, the mall, the library, or what have you as a reprieve or as a beacon of safety or comfort, that's been ripped away from them for 9 months. They have nowhere to go. They don't have a security, a safe space, a reprieve to go to in their time of need. Jonathan, again, he touched on racial tensions and police brutality. That's nothing new either. And I know some of you all can attest to that from personal experience or just, you know, your time being on this earth. But while this isn't a new phenomenon, students are now trapped in their homes with nothing but excess time on their hands. There's nothing to do but stare at a screen. And now when you see those tweets, those blog posts, those videos pop up about one new tragedy or another, there's nothing you can do but take in the information about it. My time is kind of going on, but there's so much we can get to, and I hope, and I know we'll touch on it later in this conversation, but the fact of the matter is that young people are struggling, students are struggling, and while this conversation is a step in the right direction, what we really need is a collective commitment and a holistic approach to ensuring that what is already a bad situation doesn't get worse. And I just look forward to hopefully seeing the fruits of this conversation and seeing the type of resources and solutions, ideas that come out of it.
Thank you, Nina. We see what she's amazing.
Yes.
How old is she again? Wait a minute.
All right.
So I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. McAllister, Tyrese McAllister, to speak a little bit to the group. Thank you.
First, I'd like to thank Councilmember Monique Anderson Walker for the invitation, for caring about Prince George's County as a community and always doing your heart's work to make sure Prince George's County, the community, is taken care of. And I do appreciate that as a member here in Prince George's County. I want to say kudos to both Jonathan and Nina. Your presentations was excellent and right on, and it mirrors a lot of what Dr. Green and I see on an everyday basis in our practices, working with young people. But what I wanted to kind of twist the conversation a little bit, because I think we all know what the problems are for us before COVID and during COVID. And some of these problems will exist after COVID. Some of the magnitude will be more, but to provide hope, because this can be an opportunity to reflect and to re-engage with family members and connect in ways we've never had before. It can also be an opportunity to think about a business venture or something else that can be done, partnering with other people. Certainly people losing their job is a hardship for the adults that I see in my practice, but it's also an opportunity to think about what else can you do and how can you do it? In the Great Depression, for African Americans especially, millionaires were made. People were supporting small businesses, and I think it's a time for us to reset. If we look at it that way, I think we can do it. Maybe not alone. And so I would like to encourage people who really are struggling, because people really are having some struggles, that they would connect with a therapist, because it's to take care of their mental health. Mental health has to be a priority. We put a lot of effort into everything else that we do, and mental health has to be intentional. How we take care of our mental health needs to be a priority, even before COVID, but especially during COVID. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. McAllister, who always brings us a good word. And some of her specialties, I can tell you, I mean, she is substance abuse, crisis, trauma. She was on our May 2020 moving forward as well. And now we're going to bring in Dr. Green, Dr. Monica Green. Can you give us some words of advice?
Indeed, indeed. Thank you, first of all. everyone, but thank you to Councilmember Monique Anderson Walker for allowing me to be a part of this yet again. It truly is a blessing to be able to come on board and just share, answer questions, and see how we can significantly impact the lives of others. And I think that's the biggest piece is through COVID, we've had an opportunity to be isolated in school, isolated in our homes, not being able to socialize, having to go outside of our homes and wear a mask. And I mean, life has truly changed. Masks that we wear in school, and the masks that we wear in the community, masks that we wear in the grocery stores and so forth. I think, as Tyree said, in our private practice and group practice, we've had an opportunity to see a lot of folks who are suffering with increased anxiety, increased depression, a lot of substance abuse increase has occurred as well as some positives. It has brought some families together. Some marriages have been able to blend and mend some of the issues that they've had, as well as, unfortunately, it has torn some families apart. But working together, I think the biggest word is working together. This has affected all of us, not just one of us, not just one family. It has truly affected us all. And, you know, we face a daily struggle every day to get up and live in this COVID sector that we're living in right now. I think it's important that we just stick together, have the opportunity to maybe find a therapist or a life coach to go and talk to share your feelings and thoughts with. That can really make a big difference and impact in your life and how you see life, and just have a cognitive shift about how we can live our lives now, because we're never going to go back to living as we did before. This is a new life. This is a new path, and we just have to be open and ready for whatever is coming our way through talking to each other, through sharing our stories, and being able to just build that coping mechanism or that coping box that we refer back to oftentimes in therapy, so that we can build ourselves. Our characters are changing. So there you have it.
Okay, so I see this is a quiet group. We haven't gotten any questions in the chat box yet, but I know even if you just want to make some comments about how you're feeling through this time, it is confidential. We don't have to call you out. We could just, you know, say that one of you all have shared, you know, the challenges or some of the blessings even, or some coping mechanisms you have learned to introduce into your life through this time. I'm going to share with you one that I learned on the last one, because I'm an aromatherapy girl. I'm, you know, all into all the natural things. So I have all of that. But Dr. Monica Green talked about before you go to bed at night. How many of you all have a lot on your head before you go to sleep? You can just raise your hand. Okay, that's me. And so, and then you wake up sometimes with the same thoughts. And one of her things of advice was to get a journal, put something by your bed, and write those things that are in your head at that time before you close your eyes and before I take my melatonin. And then in the morning, you've kind of let those things go. And I told my daughter about that the other day. She actually tried. She did it. And she said, "Mommy, I did feel the release because you shifted it," right? And Dr. Green, you want to talk about that a little bit more and some other techniques that people could use?
Absolutely. One of the things I tell my clients on a day-to-day basis is to wake up with gratitude and to start a gratitude journal. Even if you just talked about 3 to 4 things that you're grateful for every morning, just to be grateful during this pandemic, you know, even grateful for the experience, because I think it has made a lot of us take a look at our lives and take a look at what we're doing and how we're affecting others on a day-to-day basis. So gratitude, what you're grateful for every day. And then I always say, take up some time in the evenings to write down your intentions in a journal. So if you can write down some of your thoughts and feelings, because our minds are racing all day and we have so much going on, sometimes that interrupts our ability to fall asleep and stay asleep. So therefore, if you can pour some of that out into a journal and write some of those things down, then you have something to refresh yourself in the morning. You have something to refer back to the next day, but at least you get it out of your mind and you can then prepare for that sleep. That really important REM sleep, rapid eye movement, is something that we all need every day in order to really suit up and be ready for the next day. The next day has its own troubles in it, so you got to be ready for it every day. So journaling is a great part of restoring and healing yourself.
Excellent. Thank you.
Gina, I would like to add on to that because
okay.
similar to Dr. Green, I also encourage my clients to journal, and it is extremely helpful. People usually, are kind of reluctant and like, oh, I don't know how that's going to help. But they report back that it is an amazing way to lift your mood and the gratitude. And you mentioned essential oils, and I just want to say something I just recently started doing in the last 2 weeks, but it is absolutely amazing, is I put the essential oils on my mask. So when I'm out, my mood is constantly lifted all day. And I was like, oh, I'll just try it because it smells good. But it was amazing. And it really helped me keep a very good balance. So I just rub it on my hands, then I rub it on my mask, and all day I'm smelling essential oils that are very good for me. And I just shared with a client today who has problems with anxiety, that they could rub on lavender and other things that help relax their nervous system. So I will get back to you and let you know how that works. But being able to have the aromatherapy throughout the day, it's one thing to have to wear the mask. I know I have mask fatigue because I am out in the field, and so I wear a mask all day. So I'm wearing a mask 8 hours a day dealing with, because I'm a first responder for mental health. However, that essential oil in my mask is extremely helpful. Thank you.
And I do that too. So I do that because I have like sinus issues. So putting something across my face is like, and when I do an oil that I like, it relaxes you. And especially if you have to be double masked, which I think a lot of people are doing these days with the numbers ticking up. So we do have.
And there are some essential oils for respiratory problems. I'll talk to you about that offline.
Okay, I appreciate that. So we have a question for Nina, and it's the question is, how can adults support students during this time, especially educators? And let me just say, I know that your principal, and I see Patricia Duffy's on as well from Oxon Hill High School. Hi, Patricia. And I know Peter Anderson is on from Washington Charter School. And I'm sure there's other educators on the line, and they're looking forward to your answers.
Yeah, Ms. Gina, can you hear me all right?
I sure can.
All right. I think that's a really wonderful question, and it's one I've came across quite frequently in the past couple of months. I think the first thing is, it's kind of cliche, but it's true. And that's just make it known as publicly and as well as you can that for students, you are someone they can come to. But I think secondly to that, and probably the most important in my, or the most impactful in my opinion, is adults, whether it's parents, educators, practitioners, so on and so forth, simply being open about their own struggles and battles during COVID-19. Starting that conversation and saying something along the lines of, you know what, it just wasn't a good day for me today. I had a tough time getting out of bed. I didn't feel like coming to work today. I didn't feel like, so on and so forth. And I think that does a few things. I think by being open with, by the adult in whatever form they may be, being open about their own struggle, I think what that does is normalizes having trouble with mental health. When a child sees a student, when a child or a young person or a student sees an adult owning and claiming their feelings and claiming their experiences, I think on the student's behalf, it lets them know that it's okay to not be okay. And it's also okay to claim that uneasiness, that anxiety, that worry, that fear, that frustration. I also think it teaches the student how to deal with it. That talking and venting and sharing your grievances is one of the many ways that you can utilize your feelings productively. Second to that, I think tough times often create opportunities for bonding and openness if utilized correctly. So not only are you going to strengthen those relationships between the student or the young person, whatever position or capacity that adult fills, I think that you present an opportunity for those two individuals or that organization or that entity to become closer in a sense. So those would be my two suggestions.
Okay. I want to share a little bit of Jonathan and Nina, and we actually talked a little bit about that earlier today, and we talked about culturally and also, parents. Okay, so we all have been teenagers. I always think about this now because I'm not a teenager anymore. I know you can't tell that, but but, but, you know, think about when you were a teenager and you felt like your parents just did not understand, right? They don't understand anything about me. You go to your friends, but I've been talking to some young people, and like I said, had an earlier conversation today, and we need to actually let our kids know, this is my personal opinion, to let them be able to say whatever they need to say, even if it's going to be hurtful. But you have to, like Nana was saying, you have to let them trust you, that they can really talk about it, because a lot of times kids don't want to disappoint their parents. They don't want to think that, you know, oh, if I don't tell them I'm too overwhelmed with my schoolwork, and you're saying, go do your work. you know you can do it. Sometimes we're not in tune to them, and we should probably sometimes have those conversations. I'm big on family talks, you know, sit down and look, how are you feeling? A lot of kids sometimes won't really divulge things unless we actually have those open kind of conversations. And then we talked about culturally, we know that, you know, we're survival people. We're not supposed to, you know, we're supposed to get up and keep moving. Everybody, you know, really, we kind of gotten lost like that. So I sound like I think I know about counseling, so I'm gonna go over it. But that was my 2 cents in terms of cultural, and also just trying to get your kids to talk, act interested, and also listen to what they're saying. Because a lot of times I just talk to a young person that I know is a high achiever, having a really hard time because they don't even really know how to stop to relax. They're always in the mode of finishing, you know. And so of course, if I show that I'm not doing it, then I look like I'm not achieving for my parents and for my peers. They're competitive too, because most high achievers are competitive. So that's another mode to that. But I see that the Delegate Jay Walker has a question. We're going to turn the microphone over. Unmute yourself, please.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Good evening, everybody. And thank you all for coming and taking the time. And thank you, Councilwoman Anderson Walker, for putting this together in your office. I have several questions, so I'll just kind of throw them out there until you answer them. First would be for the people in academia on the Zoom. One thing we've always tried to work on as a state, and I think Ms. Nina said it best, is prior to COVID, we always knew there was a shortage of counselors, school psychologists, things of that nature. And we've tried to work on the ratio and getting that addressed properly. What can we do now during these times? And I'm a big fan, like Jonathan said, we take a negative and we turn it into a positive. We knew it was a negative situation prior to. In this new world that we have now, where it's not as much physical contact, but social contact is there, you can reach more people in a shorter period of time. What can we do, or what suggestions do you have for if you have a student, a colleague, a friend that you think needs some talking to or some guidance through? What can the schools do creatively outside of the box to try and take advantage of the situation? That's my first question.
Okay. Who's going to address that? Some of our educators, did they want to address that online? Or Jonathan, do you have some ideas in terms of that?
Hey, give me just a second. I'm sorry. Maurice and I are working out an issue. We're having I guess people logged in under me. I sent them the link. So she was saying there are like 5 Jonathan Harrises in here. So we were getting that worked out, but I'll come back on in a second. I'll come back on in a second.
All right, sure. I'll go to my next one then. And this is another one for as well, like being one of these adults.
Delegate Walker?
Yes.
Hey, sorry, I don't mean to cut in. I've actually been looking into some of the things that other schools are doing. I can speak on it a little bit just from analyzing policy, as I'm a policy analyst, just seeing what other schools are doing. It seems that the Council of Great City Schools, it's a nonprofit, they're coming up with recommendations. One of the recommendations they feel is kind of creating a culture of not only checking in, but of shared ownership over some of these issues that are going across the board. So I think a part of that would be trying to decide in different ways of kind of cultivating a culture of just trying to make sure everyone is being accounted for. There's other schools like Tulsa, they have different programs, and they've been able to partner with different agencies and different organizations like T-Mobile and stuff like that. So we're seeing that. The COVID Collaborative, they also came out with a recommendation. I think it's an article, it's a report called 10 Ways, actually I have it pulled up here. They have a report called 10 Ways to Make Online Learning Work. And I'll actually drop that in the link down here.
No, it's something like that to follow on that. So it's something like that. If they're, I'm curious about the COVID Collaborative and the 10 Ways to Make It Work. Are we getting that, sharing that within our school system, within our kids that are facing education learning like never before in the history of this country? Never. Do we have principals on here or school? Anybody there that could give me an answer? Or
I can just kind of speak a little bit around what we're talking about making students feel comfortable and just the cultural aspect. So in my observations, when we look at, who students gravitate towards when they, when they have a problem or they have a concern or they need to talk about something, it's someone that they feel close to. So it takes me back to what Nina mentioned around adults, being available to students or coming off as, approachable, for lack of better terms, or someone that, I know if I go to her with a concern, she is going to hear me out, she is going to treat me with respect and probably offer me some advice or make me feel okay, when I walk away. And so I say all that to say it becomes very challenging, for us as principals and administrators to really support students when it comes to addressing their concerns or their issues, because they will only gravitate to someone that they feel close to. And at the end of the day, a lot of times it becomes their teacher. And so when we talk about, what resources do we have in place, or like, what's the next step once the student goes to this teacher and discloses this information to this teacher? What now can the teacher do to provide that student with additional support? And I'll give you an example. Recently, within this time frame, we were dealing with a lot of losses, but even prior to COVID, we've dealt with, as a school community, the loss of a student, a current student, because we deal with both the loss of, an alumni, and then, but it really, when it's a current student, it hit homes for everyone. And when that happens, district protocol is to bring in those outside psychologists and additional supports to come in and, support the students. And do you know that I can count on my hand how many of those students will actually go and speak to those on-site therapists or psychologists that are coming to, address them. So it's definitely, it's necessary to first allow students to understand that if there's something going on with you and you need to share something, that it's okay for you to do that. We need you to get in the habit to where you're not holding this information in. But then how do we encourage them to just be open more to who they're sharing the information to, so that it's not just so overwhelming to the teacher or whom they've built a rapport with. And so we know it's quite natural for any of us. You want to go to someone that you trust. But that's something that I'm definitely open to suggestions, especially, anyone's creativity. But, we talk about outside entities and outside resources and them coming into the school to support the students. It's really a challenge because, like I said, they gravitate towards who they know. And so when we have these things, we try to make sure we have adults or individuals that students know and are familiar with to help them. But I just don't know how to get them outside of that, scope of those individuals that they see on a daily basis.
Yeah, and that's one of the things. Everybody kind of knows my history. I'm a I believe in unconventional learning and different type things, you know, pushing financial literacy, pushing PE, things of that nature. And I know we've got some members of the clergy here on this Zoom as well. You know, maybe that's where that collaborative has to be, where, you know, the people outside of the school system can offer the celebratory modes, can talk to the folks that we can't reach. We always want to reach as many as we can, but we offer the resources, but sometimes it just doesn't get there. My second point is with Nine, another one. This is a little bit of me being a parent, as well as trying to understand, when I was so many years on the education committee in Annapolis, is the computer generation. I think a lot of us on here that are older can't relate to Snapchats all the time and everything else. And just in the moment that we've had this Zoom, I'm like, I can imagine what my son goes through now, trying to learn and constantly getting texts from different people, and still trying to concentrate and learn. But yet, and I'm always bewildered by this, whenever I take my son with a group of his friends early on, and it was like this with my daughters a little bit too. You get them in a group together, 4 or 5, and while they're at the table, they could be having lunch or dinner. They're going to be having dinner just like this.
Yeah.
Conversation going. So coming out of that, and I was on one work group, and they talked about, they were saying, you know, think about what the kid's going through. So he's in front of a computer, he or she's in front of a computer for 6-7 hours during the school day, and then they take a quick break. Then they're on the phone, which is on their computer, basically. And then they've got to do an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours worth of homework in front of a computer again. So trying to stop them from being depressed. And I think it's only natural to do that. So I didn't know if you had ideas, tips, what you may do for better practices and along with that. But it's something that I could never understand. I realized once I started observing it, like, wow, this is something like nobody can imagine. I wouldn't wish this on anybody, but everybody's going through it. Everybody's doing the same type of learning in most cases. So I want to get your thoughts on that.
So I think one of the things that's really important for everyone is to unplug for a while. The students to unplug for a while, especially throughout the day if they have an opportunity to do some exercises in between the classes, walk around, change their mood, do something different. And then in the evening, before they start homework, perhaps unplug for a while. And sometimes the kids feel that being online or talking to their friends or on chat or text messaging and so forth is relaxing for them, but truly it keeps the brain functioning and going. So if they unplug, if you say, put your phone down for a while, come on and help me do this, come on and help me do that, do something different to shift things around, then perhaps it will change the moods for all of us, children, students, and for adults that are online at work all day long. But for the students, maybe just having a change in their milieu throughout the day may be very helpful as well.
I also wanted to add for teachers, maybe having a check-in in the beginning of like a warm-up, but it's a check-in because these are unconventional times. And so the warm-ups that students usually do just to get their brain flowing really maybe need to turn to mental health. And that normalizes it. That normalizes that, hey, somebody is having a problem, somebody's not coping, or that it's a reality. I think for our community, unfortunately, mental health has such a stigma that people don't want to talk about it. And so it's easy to go unaddressed. Even when we see things are bizarre or strange, we don't want to really talk about it and we're not real about it. So I would like to see more conversations around the dinner table about, you know, just being able to check in. And the same thing, the beginning and end of school. Does anybody need to talk about anything? How's your day go? Not just how your day going and accept fine, but really what's really going on with you? What are you thinking? And not be afraid to ask those tough questions. And as parents, be ready to hear about it. Because kids are extremely depressed, extremely anxious, and even suicidal. And I don't want to have to keep telling parents, this is a real problem here. You know, I want parents to be able to hopefully address it before it happens. So people are really, really struggling. And I just like to see us normalize it so we can normalize the help, that help is available, because it is.
Yeah. And you know what, Tyrese, one other thing, Marcy brought up a piece of the teachers being the first go-to, you know, because of the relationship that they've built with the students. And I think the teachers need a support system. I heard Mr. Walker say, you know, perhaps the church, the clergy people, but, you know, we're mental health professionals. Call on folks, look on, find a therapist and see how you can get an organization to support the school, to support the teachers, to have perhaps a back and forth, a conversation of how do I address this with the students. And one of the students came to me and said this, and what do I report? And what don't I report? You know, what do I say? So just having a support system for the teachers, principals, assistant principals may be a very good idea as well, establishing a relationship with some mental health professionals.
And something really simple, but also fun that the school systems can do. I know that I've done it a little bit at Lincoln. We can actually start incorporating wellness challenges. So Delegate Walker, to your point about, you know, your son not wanting him to be on the computer all the time, but maybe using social media as a way to do like fun check-ins about the things he did outside of social media and off of social media. So for example, school systems can do, you know, 10 days of self-love challenge. So, you know, practice self-care for 10 days or something like that. And at the end of the 10th day, post about it and maybe give away prizes or different things that promote that kind of well-rounded lifestyle. So something that I'm getting ready to incorporate at Lincoln University, again, where I work, is every month we're going to do a different wellness challenge. So I want our students to read more. So we're going to do, you know, post a book that you're reading. We're going to do better eating challenges. So post your meals and different things like that. So at least if you are going to be on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook, whatever you have, you'll be using it to showcase that you are taking care of yourself. And we're going to try to work with different outside organizations to see if we can give away, you know, gift cards, prizes, or things like that. But the overall point is to promote that health and wellness piece.
Thank you.
If I can jump in. There's a lot of things that were said, so I kind of want to try to touch on all the different pieces very briefly. When we talk about who students go to in their time of need, I think, yes, teachers are obviously up there, but I think probably the most pulling person is a student's own peer, you know, their friend, their classmate, so on and so forth. I mean, I can tell you just from experience as a student, is that if I have an issue, I'm nine times out of 10, I'm going to go talk to a friend about it, to vent, to, you know, complain, to give my grievance before I go to a teacher or before I go to my principal or my teacher. And I think knowing that, I think something that we need to do a better job of is education. Educating students on, firstly, what is your mental health and resources available to you on an individual level, on a school level, a county-wide level, so on and so forth. So for example, if a friend or a peer does come to me and say, you know what, you know, I haven't been able to sleep, you know, I can't get these thoughts out of my head, this, that, and the third is happening, I say, you know what, you know, here's X, Y, and Z you can go to talk to somebody, or hey, I think you should go to talk to Principal Holland, or hey, I think you should go talk to Ms. Anderson Walker to, you know, get those feelings out. I think in addition to that, when we talk about talking to people and the relationship between students and adults, I think it would be beneficial if parents internalize the fact that it's okay if you're not the it person for your child. It's okay if you're not the person your child wants to go to when they feel as though they have an issue. If they're going to someone else, if they're going to a teacher, if they're going to an administrator, if they're talking to their counselor, their mentor, coach, or what have you. The idea is, of course, unless there's some extenuating circumstance, it's okay if you don't talk to me as long as you're talking to somebody. And I think that's something that it would be, you know, great if a lot of adults would heed. In that sense, Ms. Anderson Ford a while ago talked about culture and the culture of mental health. And I think when it comes to minorities specifically, one of the things students tend to do is diminish their own experiences and their own troubles with mental health as an ode or as a way to pay respect to the troubles that they know their parents experience. You see this a lot when it comes to, for example, immigrant students, right? They know that their parents experience, you know, really harrowing things, whether it's, you know, trying to navigate being in a new country, whether it's trying to navigate coming over here in the first place and trying to get their bearings. And so in comparison to that, right, and to something like that, of that magnitude, me having trouble with school seems so insignificant compared to that, or at least that's the thought that goes, you know, often goes through us. And so I think when we talk about the relationship between young people and adults, that's something we should also keep in mind as well. And when we have that conversation, adults should be real careful to make sure that they're not furthering that diminishment of the young person's feeling.
I wonder one.
Yeah. If I could, my name is Linda Allen Benton, and some time ago, I was a therapist in charter schools in DC under a special program. And one of the things we did was run groups, and this gets to what Nina said so well. And once you got these groups together, we had anger management, girls group, leadership, boys group, teens of various sexual orientations. So these small groups began to support each other. And it was wonderful that as the adult leader in the group, I could just sit back after a couple of weeks of them gelling, and they would take care of each other's problems and come up with wonderful solutions.
Thank you, Linda.
Hello. Yes, my name is Tara James. I'm with Triumphant Communities. I agree with Linda. In our community setting, for the teens, we have a program called You Matter, We Matter. And so what our teens do is they actually get together, especially now virtually because they're in so many different locations, and they really talk it through. They also have jam board sessions. They try to do far removed things from school and things that's related to just at home. They'll talk about those things, but then they'll also talk about things that's fun, really light, and then bring them back into focus as it relates to dealing with real serious issues. A lot of them have really been dealing with a lot of COVID issues going on in their families, as well as being afraid with being in high school and not knowing what their future will hold. And so they'll discuss that, but then they'll get off the topic and they'll start to talk about really trying to figure out what they want to do in life, continue forward, press through. They'll talk about, you need to persevere. We got this. We got you. We're here for you. So they actually will work together to bring someone else who's having a hard time struggling through the process. So I think peer interaction, as well as just having an adult there to ground them sometimes, really helps out.
I think it's also teaming with that. Sorry, Jonathan. I think teaming with that is not to take away from the whole family aspect of everything. It all stems with family. That's your groundedness, your parenting. So let's go back to some of the things that used to work. A family night where we have dinner together, where we talk about things. You know, let's go back to a movie night with the family. Let's go back to having the foundation of the family coming together through this pandemic, because we're all experiencing it in different ways. But the family is the foundation of everything, because if you don't have that family and you don't have that kindredship with people who may not even be your blood family, but are your family, and having that ability to express yourself and talk to other people about what's going on in your day-to-day life, but that family night, that family time, and that bonding kind of prepares you for what the next step in life and gives you the opportunity to know that the parents are struggling just as much as the children. There's no judgment. We're all going through the same things. Here are some coping mechanisms that I use. Maybe they'll work for you, maybe they won't, but coming up with things together can kind of help prepare you for what's next moving forward.
Something I wanted to also shed light on too, because I feel like this age bracket often needs a lot of support, but maybe isn't included in all the conversations. But for those of you who have older children, you know, some of you have children who are probably still in the K through 12 systems, but some of you might have children who are in that 21 to 30 range. I'd even say 35 for the sake of this conversation. And for others, it might be grandchildren or nieces or nephews. I would say with them, just continue to be as supportive as possible. Again, as a person who currently works at a college, a lot of my students have been having a really hard time because right after college, people start looking for jobs. And with how everything of COVID has gone, a lot of them lost their internship opportunities. So generally speaking, you get jobs based off of work experience. But what work experience are you gaining when places are shutting down left and right on you? So I had a bunch of students who lost so many, again, opportunities and things like that. So even just as we're wording things like, hey, how's your job search going, might make someone feel a certain type of way. I think a better way you can word that is that would be, is there anything that I can support you with? So it lets you know that you're not in this by yourself. If I need to make a phone call or help you look up some stuff, I can, instead of like you need to be trying to find a job. Because, you know, earlier we talked about some of the different things that cause anxiety. That age bracket, especially that 25 to 35, is extremely hard, because I think those ages are where you start to see a lot of your friends' lives really take different directions. You start to watch people become homeowners. You start to watch people become married. You start to watch people become parents. And you see it all unfold amongst social media. So, you know, I have a lot of female friends in the 30 range, and, you know, their conversations with me are, so-and-so just had a baby, when am I going to have a child? Right. And that can be very hard, you know, to watch other people be celebrated for something that you secretly want for yourself. And again, same thing with home ownership, same thing with a lot of different things. Like I said, that 25 to 35 range, or when you start to watch people's careers take off, you're watching your friends get promoted to these director level positions, or these things where they're starting to do more at work, and you're like, I'm over here still trying to find a job, and I'm watching my friend become a director or a senior vice president or this or that. So, you know, a lot of times it's interesting, because when we look at the well-being of a child, we're very intentional about how we talk to children. We're even intentional how we talk to teenagers. But for some reason, when a person turns 18, a lot of us develop this mindset that they don't need positive affirmation anymore. And that couldn't be further from the truth. Regardless of how old you are, you still need people in your corner letting you know that I am proud of you. I am here to support you. It's not a, you know, 0 to 18 years old thing. It's a life thing. So I think at all ages, it's just important that we keep that in mind for some of our older kids, or older children, I should say.
Thank you, Jonathan. I think that a lot of parents, I think, that grin when you said that 18, because we all relate with that. So I want to switch a little bit. I think we're going to do more of these. Let me first say, we're going to probably be doing 1 or 2 of these a month. So look for our flyers on this, because we know people need help. We've talked about our youth, and they are our future, and they're most important. But I want to switch a little bit to the adults on the line, not the young adults, but the young at heart adults too on the line. A few people, we've had some great comments in the chat. I don't know if you all have had a chance to look at that, but the really great comments. But I want to talk about breathing exercises. We can address those. Someone asked what kind of breathing exercises we can do, but also let's talk about some of the adults. So, you know, we have these young people that we have to do this for, but we're trying to manage our own heads. So how do we do that? Some adults have lost their jobs. Some families have had loss in their families. So let's talk about some things for the adults who are really trying to keep it all together. Because as a parent, you're always trying to keep your kids together, but you're trying to keep this one. You have a spouse, you know, you have a job. So can we address that and talk about breathing exercises, which I know would help everyone. Who can talk to that? Dr. Green?
Well, so I've had several of my adult clients having lots of issues with many things. Unfortunately, the world was not ready for this pandemic to start. So there were people who lost their job. They've lost loved ones. They've lost their food stamps. They've lost their money. So they don't have the resources and so forth that they normally would have. And sometimes, even with unemployment, not being able to get unemployment to support their children and their families. So having the opportunity to perhaps have a church family, having some supports from their friends who are struggling, having the same talk groups that these peer children are having, to actually have talks with their friends and other people to kind of help support them. The other piece is again, I'm certainly an advocate of therapy, counseling. So to look online, go on findatherapist.com, go on Psychologist Today, and find someone who takes your insurance to see how you can get the support systems. Because not only are you dealing with the psychosocial aspect of things, you're also dealing with the mental health piece as well, which has increased tremendously since the pandemic has started, as we've talked about, with people having anxiety, people having depression, but other things is people's moods are now swinging, and they're having many other issues and so forth. So finding that support team to actually help you. In an outpatient mental health clinic in the state of Maryland, we actually have a team support where you actually have a therapist, you have a medication management piece, which is a psychiatrist or nurse practitioner, but you also have another piece, which is a PRP, a psychiatric rehabilitation person who is like a life coach or a mentor who can join the therapist and help people achieve their goals and provide support as a team to families, individuals, and children and adults. So just getting that whole team system together is very helpful. Tyrese, do you have anything to add in working in those systems too?
I think that people should, what I wish for people is that they were taking care of their mental health prior to COVID and then continuing during COVID. Mental health is something that people don't take as seriously as they should. They don't think about it. You know, they kind of just brush things off. But this world is hard, and it was hard before COVID. COVID has made it a little bit more complicated. But the reality is we need to be doing things for our mental health every day. And so I had a client say, I need to do something every day. I'm like, don't you brush your teeth every day? Don't you brush your teeth several times a day? Well, your mental health is just as important as your teeth. As your care, it's extremely, extremely important that we take care of our mental health and be intentional. And so when bad things happen, because bad things do happen, and they happen to good people, can you be prepared? Can you weather the storm? You don't go out in the rain without some type of protection. Don't go out into the world without some type of protection. What I would like to see for young people and for adults is that their home life could be a sanctuary. But we know that for many people, it is not. It can be pure hell for some people. And we seeing that with kids who aren't in school, so the numbers have gone up for abuse calls. We see it with domestic violence. But we need to be supportive of each other and not judgmental about what people are going through, but have that sense of community that we had many, many years ago. And not just, it's not my problem, I'm gonna mind my business, but that we are trying to help each other, be supportive of each other, look out for one another. I think COVID has kind of helped with some people with doing that a little bit better. And I hope it doesn't change when we can get through COVID. But I think mental health, if you don't take it seriously, it can take you out of here. And there are a lot of people who are really struggling and they didn't have a wellness routine prior to COVID. I think both Dr. Green and I have been able to weather the storm, and not that it's been easy, but it's doable because we realize as therapists how important your mental health is for you to be able to maintain everything else that's going to come, because any of us can lose our jobs at any time. Any of us can, we all, death is a part of life. We all are going to experience unexpected losses. So it's not just COVID. And I want people to take care of themselves even beyond COVID, because life does happen. And, we can weather these storms that life gives us if we build up the resilience, if we're able to bounce back, able to not just be deflated when bad things are happening in life.
It's funny that you say that, because I've had several clients to come to me and say, you're so joyful all the time and nothing bothers you. And I always say, we face the same struggles that you face each and every day. The difference is our resources, our support teams, our support system, that's all that's different. But the other thing is, the isolation of our senior citizens in assisted living, in the nursing homes and so forth, that's been very difficult, or in hospitals, because people can't go visit people anymore. And not everybody has the technology of doing FaceTime and so forth. So having that support team to actually go in and support people in those environments really makes a big difference. Family is truly important. Family, friends, and support systems are truly important all over.
I agree with that. Excuse me, Flavia Walton is on from Dementia Friendly. She did make comments in regard to the seniors, the loss of friends, isolation. And I encourage you all, I get on there Wednesday, they do a Remember Cafe. Flavia, can you speak to that a little bit and tell people when that's available?
Sure. As a matter of fact, this is our rendition of memory cafes, which are great socialization activities for individuals with early Alzheimer's, early dementias, and their care providers. And it offers an opportunity for the two to engage in the moment activity or activities that build memories and also give them a chance to interact on a level that they once remembered or that they once could. And that's every first and third Wednesday. Gina, if you could send out the announcement to everyone. Okay. Now it's kind of morphed into a train your brain for anyone who wants to keep their brain alive and to train their brain and hopefully to prevent onset of dementias or Alzheimer's. Because the virtual platform does not work well for a lot of seniors or a lot of people who are in the stages of early dementias or Alzheimer's. It's too much stimulation, it just does not work well. So we work with adults who are perhaps, and anyone who's a care provider, to help them work with their VIP or their very important person, as well as helping people just to stay active and to take care of themselves. It is a form of self-care. So,
can I interject that I don't have dementia or Alzheimer's yet, but I had a ball. And I'm gonna tell you, so don't get caught up in you hearing, well, I don't have that, I'm not old. It was engaging, it's fun, they have music, they have word memory things. And I can tell you by the time I did it, I felt much stronger after I had dementia-friendly engagement. It's, you know, seeing people's faces, laughing. They do an excellent job, and they always have some music, which is always great too. I will share all that on Councilwoman Monique Anderson Walker's Facebook page and her Instagram. We'll get it out to you. We're taping this, and we'll have this posted with everything as well.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Flavia. I wanted to go back to the breathing because I know that will help everybody. So I don't know if Tyrese, do you do the breathing exercise that we can all just take a moment to do now?
Oh, you want to do it now?
Yeah, I want everybody to do it right now.
Okay.
Let's do that.
Wonderful. Okay, no problem. So what you do, you take a deep breath in through your nostrils, hold it for a few seconds, and then blow it out through your mouth. I need to, well, I guess you guys are on mute, but that should, you should be able to hear it. I guess everybody's on mute because I was waiting for this nice big puff. But really, you take a deep breath in through your nostrils, hold it as long as you can, and then blow it out as hard and fast as you can through your mouth. You do that several times, and that definitely helps relax you. There's another deep breathing exercise in yoga where you cover one nostril and breathe in, and then you cover the other nostril and breathe out. Now that might be a little interesting on your computer screen. I just want to. However, it really does help get you clear. So when I'm tired, if I'm seeing clients and I'm, you know, just a little tired, I do that to kind of energize myself. I see that Councilmember Walker also asked the question, so I just want to jump in because there's other things. But deep breathing, don't take it for granted. It is an amazing refresher. You know what else helps? Like if people are having problems sleeping, gargling. You can gargle mouthwash, or you can just gargle plain water. But gargling before you go to bed really helps calm your system down. Yoga and exercise are amazing for your mental health. I had a client today who had been struggling with some stuff, and she was sharing how she went on this hike this week. And then she just kind of shared, yeah, it was a good week. And what has happened is because we're all locked in the house, we're not getting the amount of sun that we need. And people underestimate how good the sun is for us. It is key to our mental health. The other thing, sleep. People are not necessarily sleeping in this because they're wired all day. They're looking at a computer until it's time to go to bed, and that interrupts your sleep. So we want to be able to, like Dr. Green said, is to be able to unplug, disengage from the computer at least 2 hours before your bedtime so that you can get a good REM sleep. Prayer. Definitely prayer helps things. Journaling is absolutely amazing. So I have my clients, most of my clients do journal. We do start with a gratitude journal. And so I wasn't doing it. And so I said, you know what, I'm asking people to do stuff that I'm myself and not doing it. And I have a lot to be grateful for. So I'll just start journaling as well. And I was going to just, my intention was to write down 2 or 3 things that I was grateful for. And before you know it, I had 3 pages. And I got a pretty nice sized journal, but what I'm saying is it just started flowing. So please, please, please try to journal. Therapy is absolutely amazing. I mean, I am so excited about the growth I'm seeing in my clients because they stepped out, didn't worry about stigma and said, you know what, I need help. And the clients who kind of listen and do the stuff that we talk about are having amazing results. So do not sleep on therapy. And then there's some other things that you can do for self-care that aren't necessarily therapy, but it's just loving up on yourself, right? And that's really what we need. We need to love up on ourselves. And so massages and facials. I just took my mom this weekend for a massage and facial. And that was a part of our self-care. Like we needed, you know, a break. My mom had been doing a lot of helping my grandmother. So she just needed to be loved up on. And that's how you do it. And then just things that you enjoy. Many of us, I know that as a working mom, I got away from a lot of things that I enjoyed doing, but with having kids who are now out of the house and having an empty nest, I can go back to things that I really enjoy doing. So it's important to add some fun in your life and develop new hobbies. Some people, some of my clients have new hobbies that they didn't have before, which are really amazing. And so it's just important to be intentional with your mental health. And like I said, you brush your teeth every day, you should be taking care of your mental health every day. You brush your teeth 2 to 3 times a day, you should check in with yourself and take care of that mental health 2 to 3 times a day. It is not too late. But when you find that your own self-care routine does not meet your needs, then it's definitely time for a therapist. Don't be afraid. Monica, I mean, Dr. Green and I are harmless. Don't we look harmless?
And I'll put your contact information in the chat group. So I want to remind everybody, vitamin D, start taking vitamin D if you haven't already started taking it, because we are not getting sunlight like we should. And also I'm a massage girl, but I'm a little nervous about going out. So I'm an Amazon girl. I find whatever I need on Amazon. I get my own things in here. You know, I'm not going to get a pedicure. I have my own foot bath now. So think of ways that you can kind of do it internal. I want to turn it over to Nina for a minute. She had something she wanted to add a little while ago.
Yeah, so just 2 things. One of them is that I'm really glad, Ms. Gina, that you pointed the conversation in this direction. I'm just talking about the general importance of making sure adults are taking care of their well-being. And one of the reasons why I say that is because I think it's important to note that students and young people, especially if they live in close proximity to you, we really feed off of the energy and the emotions and the feelings of those we're surrounded by, specifically as it pertains to the adult. So, if my mother is, frustrated or, kind of racking her brain because something happened, at work, right? A lot of adults talk about bringing home
just happened.
between young people and adults is something I want to notate. Another thing I want to touch on is that in the past, a while ago, we started talking about kind of why people neglect their mental health and, the importance of, just the fact that your mental health doesn't start and end with COVID-19, right? And one of the things I want to touch on briefly is just the general idea of why do we neglect our mental health? We know it's important. I mean, you can't do anything without being in the right mind state, right? The right psyche, the right frame of mind. So why do we do it? And for me, I guess one of the notions that I want to share with you all is this idea that we've been socialized to believe that our value as a human, as an individual, is intertwined with our labor value. The idea that you're only worth as much that you can provide or output or put into society or your community or your job or your family. This idea that if you are suffering through something that makes you incapable to provide at 100%, maximum output or efficiency, there's something wrong with you. If you don't want to go to work and work your 9 to 5 and work overtime, there's something wrong with you. If you don't try to overachieve, or if you suffer in school academically, there's something wrong with you inherently as an individual. And so I think sometimes as individuals, we tend to push aside our mental well-being, our socio-emotional well-being, to tend to the more tangible and material items in our life, such as work, such as school, such as, making money and so on and so forth. And, as Ms. McAllister pointed out, there's nothing more important than your well-being, and that you tending to your mental health has to be intentional. I just want to reiterate that and share those thoughts with you all.
And one other thing, I think, Nina, that's absolutely wonderful, Therese, but everyone has to realize that your brain runs your body. Your brain tells your heart when to beat. Your brain tells your blood to flow. It tells it. So if you can shift the way that we're thinking, if you can turn that negative into a positive, it really makes the biggest difference in the world. And I think that support team, shifting your brain thoughts and being able to actually get out and do something, stretch, take a couple times, like Gina said, you brush your teeth 3 times a day, do something different 3 times a day, get up and walk, help out a neighbor, go do something, wear your mask, be safe, but do something different than what you've been doing since the pandemic started. And perhaps that will help shift some of the thoughts that you're having into a positive manner.
And can I say something?
Yeah, Demetrius, yes.
Okay, hello everyone. So, and listen to everyone, I'm doing well, and listen to everyone's feedback and everything. It is very pertinent and important for mental health and our own self-care. But I think that because of the stigma of mental health, that we are, as a people, a little bit more afraid of ourselves, because I think that's essentially what it is. Because the hardest thing to do sometimes is to be within your own mind. And what the pandemic really did was attack us spiritually and attack us emotionally. So those are both 2 very strong pillars of our own self-care and our own mental health and well-being. And in addition to that, I believe that every morning or every day we need to have a routine. I know I was working and working from home, although that's new for everyone. It's difficult to really have that routine going. And if you don't have a routine, much like Nina was saying, that you don't really feel like you're performing. You don't feel like you're doing much. So if you do have a routine, and you're able to check it off one by one, you really feel self-accomplished and you really feel like you're doing something. So that's what really trigger and help to benefit you in a psychological standpoint, because a lot of times when we are depressed or feeling down, it is really caused by a disruption within our spirit. So our spirit is broken, we're hurt. That's why everything, like you all said earlier, the emotional, the spiritual, the psychological, as well as the physical, all play a part in how we choose to honor ourselves. And how they say you should really take care of your temple, because your temple is, where you will have your self-efficacy, so to speak. So self-care is really, it's something that's very important to do, but it's not something that we practice because we're not taught. I wasn't taught self-care until I got into college. So, you have coaches, you have teachers, you have professionals or administrators along the way that really guide you and really help you to see who you are as far as your own self-identity. And with that self-identity, you're able to try to increase your own self-esteem because you know where your place and where your belongingness is, as Maslow talked about. So I think in regards to what everyone is saying is spot on. And self-care and mental health is very important. That's why I'm so glad that we're able to have this discussion today.
Thank you, Demetrius. Look at, can I just say one thing? The young wisdom we have on the line. And I just want to say one other thing to that. And I want to have Dr. Lee, Reverend Lee, speak if she doesn't mind after I finish, because she's been putting some good posts up. Make sure we tell people why we love them, not because of what they've done.
Absolutely.
You know, I have high achieving grandsons, and I tell them all the time, look, if you couldn't get 4.38, and if you didn't sing, and if you didn't do this, I love you because of who you are. I love your heart. I love the person that you are. People, young people, and all of us, even older people need to hear that. I love you because of, you know, you're just a sweet person. It's not always because of what we've done and these accomplishments, because that stresses you out. When people feel like they're not meeting that, they're on this treadmill to feel like, you know, I have to. Let's be more loving to ourselves, like Demetrius said. You know, love yourself. I love myself because I'm a nice person. Time to say that to ourselves as well as other people. Words have power. Words have power. Reverend Lee, thank you so much for joining us. You're on mute. Can you unmute yourself? You're okay.
Yes. Hi.
Hi.
Hello, everybody. You got me?
Yes.
Hello, everybody. This has been great. And I've sat here and I'm saying, man, we definitely have to continue this dialogue. But I definitely did not want to let this time go by without addressing a group that's very dear to my heart, and that's the caregiver. You got to remember who's taking care of the caregiver.
Yeah.
This is a period of time when there's a period of isolation. And so those caregivers are now put in a position in which they can't even go out like they used to because of the fact that they themselves many times are older. I'm 81, believe it or not.
Tell the truth. Tell the truth.
No one will believe that.
Looking for
No one will believe that.
You be 41?
Anyway, I thought I would throw that in, okay.
You look fabulous.
No, but seriously, my members at Community of Hope are on what we call a Reach 5 project. So every Sunday at the end of service, Pastor Tony Lee says, don't forget, Reach 5. If every member reaches 5, that's 5 persons that were touched. And so if they take that seriously, that's 5 persons who during this period of isolation have been able to communicate. Yes. And the caregivers have been given a break. And the other thing that happens is what's happening with the deaths. And Dr. Green, you spoke about it. It is so, so, so critical. You can't be with your loved one. I mean, you can't even go visit someone who's transitioning from this world to another. And so afterwards is left that feeling of guilt that I wasn't there to be for that person.
Right.
So that's when the mental health aspect is even greater. So yes. I'm just saying, your thoughts are great. Don't forget the caregivers and don't forget the ministerial people because they are caregivers also. Pray for us all.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Lee. Jonathan, you wanted to thank you. Those are great points. I agree. This time, you know, pick up the phone and call somebody. Don't just text them, call them, let them hear a voice.
I want to just say something. First of all, this has been absolutely phenomenal. I learned so much every time we have these moving forward series, these incremental series. And I just want to say that it's so important to kind of recognize when your friend might be going through something, you need to step in. You know, I had my sister will call me and say, Monique, let's go work out. And maybe she's trying to tell me you put on a few pounds. But maybe I put on a few pounds because I'm stressed and I didn't realize it. But I'm looking at Adam, who's another friend. Hi, Adam, thanks for being here. But Adam and Montina one day said, Monique, come on, we're gonna go on a hike. And I was like, we're gonna go on the Billy Goat Trail and go hiking. And I'm gonna tell you that was so uplifting for me. So sometimes it's just reach out to people and grab them because they might just stay busy otherwise.
Love you.
Love you.
Excellent point. She wanted to spend time with you. That's what it is too. Yes.
Well, you know, all of those things, but it's important you just look out for people, even the people you think are strong. I think you're talking about the clergy. You know, the clergy are the people who are strong for everybody, but they need support.
Yeah.
So, you know, just being aware.
And I think it's really important, just at the end of the day, fear of the unknown is the greatest fear of all, and we all have that fear. And I think a lot of times looking in the mirror can be one of the most challenging things ever. But look in that mirror, be open to change, be open to being susceptible, vulnerable, because we're all vulnerable. And I think having that loving support system, I think that's something that we feel that we've lost, but we really haven't. We've gotten into this email texting kind of thing. And, you know, sometimes we just need to hear someone's voice. Amen. Sometimes just the council members, the delegates, the reverends, the therapists, we all need somebody to say, hey, listen, I'm caring about you. I'm thinking about you. Boy, that makes a big difference, because it makes what you're doing even better. And it makes you feel like you're making a difference in someone's lives. So, you know, fear of the unknown is the greatest fear of all, but you have to be able to do that, and feel free to reach out and touch someone. Feel free to, well, not necessarily, but I mean, but feel free to reach out and communicate with someone, reach out and talk to someone, you know, fist pump, you know, do the elbow piece, but definitely, you know, that's the thing that I miss the most is touching. I'm a hugger, and I love to hug, and I love to, you know, let people know, hey, I'm here for you. And that's something that we're missing now, but we can do it in so many other ways. So,
and go old school. Put a card in the mail to people.
Absolutely, yes.
Put a card in the mail.
Absolutely.
That brighten up anybody's day today. Just get and for the caregivers and for seniors, they love that. We have to go back to what we need to do. We should have probably never lost those things.
Right.
That's another way. Jonathan had something he wanted to share.
Yeah, so what I was going to say, and I think it's so important that we have two mental health specialists on the call, because I hope that they would echo my sentiment. But for everyone on the line who's always been the go-to person for their friends and their family, coworkers, or whatever you have, it's also important when you think about your own self-care to understand when a situation might be time for you to maybe bring in someone else to help. I know a lot of times you are the person who always takes their phone call, but sometimes the situation may be beyond your capabilities. And it's okay to refer people to a specialist as well. You know, sometimes people just have simple situations they do want to come to you about to vent, but sometimes you might feel overwhelmed, like, oh my goodness, they keep calling me about this. I don't even know what to tell them at this point. And that can start to make you feel a little flustered too. So I think, you know, in maintaining a good relationship with somebody, but also taking care of your mental health in the same breath, it's okay to share, have you considered talking with a specialist about this? Or I know someone great, you know, who is a psychologist that might be able to work with you on this too. So the analogy I was thinking about, if you've ever been on an airplane, they talk about putting on those safety masks in the case of an emergency. They always tell you that you do have to put on your own mask before you can put on someone else's. And I know sometimes we might feel like we're drowning in water ourselves while trying to get somebody out of the water too. So I think if you ever find yourself in a space where your mental health is kind of in question at the moment and someone is coming to you, that might be the thing that kind of takes you over the top too. So it's important to even be able to have those conversations with those you love. Like, honestly, I'm not in a space right now to be able to, you know, really support you with this, but let me suggest this so that they're still getting the support they need without you overwhelming yourself too.
And I know we're short on time, but I just wanted to add a last comment. Yes. Jonathan, I'll echo your sentiments. I mean, we were tossing around analogies, but I think another adequate one is that you can't pour from an empty glass.
Absolutely.
And I think if there's anything this COVID situation has taught me, if that's even possible, is that it's how to say no. And like you alluded to, just knowing what your boundaries and what your limits are, and just walking with the understanding that by taking on someone else's problems, regardless of the weight of them, is only adding on to the baggage you didn't already know you had, or the baggage that you do have.
Right.
And so for me, it's just time management, it's load management, it's understanding that even though I want to help you, I want to be of assistance, it's in me innately to be empathetic and to want to help and to be of service to other people, but just realizing that I can't help you if I can't help myself first.
Absolutely.
I agree with that. And
I know you'll make a great therapist one day.
This young lady, I mean, I'm like, I think I need to check her driver's license. So look, we're at that time where I hope that everybody has felt a little bit more. I feel great because we've been on here talking to each other and seeing each other's faces, getting some good information. And this is just the beginning, because as you can see, we could go on and on and on. This pandemic, sadly, is not going anywhere for some time. And we just got through Thanksgiving, which I know I kept hearing everyone say, it was different. That was the word most people used. It was different. And Christmas is coming. We are going to be doing another one right before the Christmas holiday. So stay tuned for that. And if you have suggestions on some things that you'd like for us to do, and Councilwoman Anderson Walker, you know, we like to think of ourselves as very innovative, but we are here for you. We are here for the community. And I was out with her during the Thanksgiving weekend. We fed 2,800 people.
Oh, amen.
And she was right there with us. We helped hand out, I think, $56,000 worth of gift cards with employee Prince George's. So, you know, she's been feeding people since March, and it's going to be ongoing, but that's one need. But she also knew about the mental health. That was on her platform from the time before she even came into office. So she's well aware of the need for this, not just for our young people, everybody needs it. So I want to ask you all to take a moment and let's thank our panelists. They were excellent. Jonathan, come back on that screen.
I was responding to a comment in the chat room.
Okay, Nina Jackson, let's give a hand for Nina. Excellent. Jonathan Harris.
Thank you.
Tyrese McAllister and Dr. Monica Green. And let's give a huge hand clap for Honorable Monique Anderson Walker, who asked me to put this on for you all.
Gina, thank you so much for doing a great job of moderating. And, you know, I've bin a big fan of Tyrese McAllister for years, Dr. Monica Green since childhood, pretty much. Nina and Jonathan, you all are such a wonderful addition because of your perspective. You know, I won't be a teenager anytime soon. I'm far off from that. I won't be 30 anytime soon. I'm far off from that. But you really do encapsulate a good understanding, a broad understanding of what's going on where you are. And we're so grateful for what you're bringing to the conversation. Actually, brilliant, brilliant. In fact, everyone on here, Demetrius is new in our office. He made some phenomenal points. Hugo Cantu, who is off screen right now, is our policy analyst. Maurice Gibbs, who is also on, is legislative, she is legislative aide. And a lot of you all I've known for a long time who were here and just add so much to the conversation, but we need to keep this conversation going. I think it's so helpful for all of us. If you would like to put a comment in as to where we should focus in our next meeting in a couple of weeks, we'd love to start to get a group together so we can start focusing the conversation on whatever the area of need is that we want to get to. And if you have bullet points on where you think we should go with this, list them. So we have some guide as to what the next steps are. But thank you so much. Thank you so much. My sister's on here. I think I might have introduced her, Montina. She's not on camera. And her friend, Adam Guy. They get me out of the house a lot, which is good for things other than work, which is important. And I want to thank my husband, who I think is he's in the office, but I think off camera.
Tuning in. Oh, there he
is. There he is. Okay. And thank you so much, Delegate Walker, for what you're doing on the state level. And I think these conversations are going to really help shape how we view policy and what we can really change on the state level, but certainly and ultimately in our communities, so that it's local. But thank you again, everybody, for joining. Love you. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay informed. Thank you so much.
God bless everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Have a great night. We'll see you right before Christmas.
See you soon. Take care.
Thank you.
Take care, y'all.
Your health is your wealth.
Yes, your health is your wealth. That's right.
Thanks, Maurice.
You're very welcome, Dr. Lee.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Lee.
Good night. Dr. Lee, Dr. Flavia Walton, thank you.
Dr. Monica Green, take care.
I think Ms. Griffin on here too. Sylvia Griffin.
Thank you. Nina, thank you, sweetie.
And stay paired up.
You're awesome. Jonathan, thank you. Awesome.
Thank you.
Tyrese
Thank you so much.
Jonathan, nice.
All right.
Yes.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
I needed this. I needed this.
I definitely needed
this. We all love and grow together. Dr. Lee,
right.
did you read my comment, Dr. Lee?
No, I didn't.
I think he just got off.
Angela Carr is a very good friend of mine. She's one of my
Oh my
best
goodness, that's my goddaughter.
and she talks about you all the time. It's a pleasure to meet you.
It's a pleasure to meet. I'll have to call and tell her.
Please do. Take good care. I'll see you soon.
Okay,
and
God
Monique,
bless.
call me for Christmas. Yeah, I'll be willing to come help, hand out whatever. Just let me know.
Fantastic.
I actually fed 20 of my clients. Wasn't that a blessing?
Wow,
that is
excellent. That is a blessing.
I would love to come help. I would love to come help.
I appreciate that.
We've been giving out baskets, at least 500 to 1,000 every 2 weeks.
Wow, that's wonderful.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Monique, Marion's still on the line. Montina.
Marion Austin. Oh my goodness.
Austin, Aunt Daisy's daughter is here. Yeah. Relatives.
Hey.
The foundation.
Your connection, we can barely hear you, Marion.
And Donna